What is up, everybody? Welcome in to game week. We are finally here after a summer's worth of preparation. The Bills and the Jets is less than a week away. Thank you for tuning in to Shout, a Buffalo Bills football podcast brought to you, as always, by Tops Friendly Markets. With over 30 ready-to-grill burgers, Tops is the place to pick out the juiciest, most delicious burgers in town. From beef and turkey to chicken and veggie, you'll find something for everyone. Taste the flavors of the world with unique toppings and twists on the classic burger. Top's World of Burgers is yours to explore. We're going to explore this Jets team today with my good buddy Antwan Staley from the New York Daily News. Antwan, thank you so much, man, taking some time here early in the week.
I appreciate you asking me to come on, Matt. It's good to be with you.
What's it? I guess like the best place to start and just to on the Jets in general, like it's gone from, I feel like 0 to 100 for you probably. And that whole media market, I know it's New York and it's always big time and it's always big media, but I feel like this offseason has just had to have been a whirlwind from a journalist perspective. What's it been like covering this team and just the national noise around this organization?
It's been like night and day compared to what it was last year. Last year was a team that didn't have any expectations. I thought a lot of people thought, especially, them winning 7 games and having the opportunity to make the playoffs late in the season. They were a bit ahead of schedule. And now you go get Aaron Rodgers and, get all this high expectations. And now you go from a team that finished in 4th place last year in the AFC East to people, I'm not saying me, but some people are talking Super Bowl with this team. And it's crazy, just all the attention, all the hype. I mean, yesterday, DJ Reed said, he thinks this defense could be historic. And I'm like, he compared it to the 85 Bears, which I'm like, wow, that's the holy grail of all defenses. So it's just crazy. Every day is something. Like every day, you're going to have something to write about. So it's fun from a journalistic standpoint from that perspective, but also it's a lot going on right now with this team.
That's so interesting, the juxtaposition between how the Jets are approaching expectations and how the Bills historically under Sean McDermott have approached things as things have gotten ratcheted up a little bit. Like, when 2020 came along and they traded for Stephon Diggs, like that was the first big offseason. It was during COVID, so it was kind of weird. But then 21 and then last year, obviously, as everybody's Super Bowl pick, like they were the first to the microphone to downplay all expectations. Whereas I feel like the Jets got their chest puffed out, like they're not afraid of any of these expectations. Do you think that's a good thing? Or do you think that if things don't go well, especially early on with the tough part of their schedule in that first month and a half, is there an opportunity to maybe have that impact them because of how high they seem on themselves?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, they want the smoke. They want all this smoke that's coming, and the bad thing about all that is like they've been the media darling throughout the entire offseason. But if they start losing, they lose to Buffalo. They got Dallas after that. They got New England. I know people are kind of discounting New England, but the Jets hadn't beaten them since 2015. So yeah, I mean, this thing can really snowball on them. So, and I think you would get, a ton of media attention on the negative end. Everything's been positive because no games have been played so far. Everybody's 0-0. And then, but once the games get started, and we're going to learn about the Jets and see how good they really are. But yeah, I mean, I think I actually asked Aaron Rodgers about that last week, and he said he thinks some people might be jealous, of the attention that they receive. And you kind of saw it with the Ward play, like on Hard Knocks, where during the preseason finale, where Aaron Rodgers got pushed, there was a little extra push and shoving, and trash talking after the fact. But I think that they have a target on their back because you see it on ESPN, they get talked about every single day. Like it's 31 other teams in the league, but they constantly always talk about the Jets. I mean, the Bills have won the division 3 years in a row. They don't have nearly the attention that the Jets have currently right now, and I think people are going to look to make an example out of them.
Got a comment from Jake here on YouTube, said based on the title of this video, it would be funny if this was a 2-second video of Matt just saying no, because the title of the video is are the Jets a real threat to the Bills? And I think that that's such an interesting question because like I think of all the teams in the division, like the Jets are constructed to be the toughest foe for the Bills in the division, right? I think Miami is the second best team in the division. And that's weird to say. And I'm still putting the Bills at the top because I do think that if all things work right this season, the Jets could win the division. They could go on and maybe even be the top seed in the AFC. Who knows? I think it's limitless potential for this team, but I think that there's also a lot of things that could go wrong. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is a 40-year-old quarterback, and I think that's a good place to start too, is like, how concerned are Jets fans that maybe the age and potential durability concerns, could that play into this season?
I think they don't think they're concerned about Aaron himself. I think they're concerned about the protection around Aaron. I think the offensive line, and it's been talked about, heavily criticized there. You got Dwayne Brown, who you talk about Aaron Rodgers' age. Dwayne Brown's 38. 38-year-old left tackle. You really don't see that a lot in the league these days in particular. I mean, Jason Peters probably the most recent example, but other than that, you can't really. You have to go back pretty far to find a left tackle that's starting at that age. But Dwayne Brown's coming off shoulder surgery, tore his rotator cuff last year. Still played 12 games, but age is a concern with him. Mekhi Becton, I think a lot of potential. We saw it in his rookie year in 2020, but really has not played the last couple of years due to back-to-back knee injuries. So that's a concern there too as well. And the Jets had 11 different offensive linemen start games for them last year, who was the most in the league there. So I think it's the protection around Aaron that I think the Jets fans are concerned about, and they should be, because if things go south there, if an injury start to happen, which they're probably going to at some point, then you wonder, like, how can this offensive line keep protecting him, and then can Aaron Rodgers stay healthy, quite frankly.
You've been around Aaron all offseason, so I wanted to ask you this question. Like, from afar, just watching a few Green Bay games last year, like, sure, was the offensive line an issue at times? For sure. But it felt like a different version of the player. Now, there was a lot going on last year, and for Rodgers leading into the season, I feel like it was a couple years of just like turmoil with that organization. And I don't know how much that played into things, but it just didn't seem like he was fully in on that season. And at times maybe played like that. On Hard Knocks, it looked like the old Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he was flinging the ball around. I mean, you had a couple moments where Robert Saleh was just, yucking it up with the boys on the sideline. Like, that's our quarterback, like all that kind of stuff. Where are you at with what you expect of the player, Aaron Rodgers, when they start the season?
I think I expect a better season than last year. I don't know if you're going to get the MVP version of Aaron Rodgers, like from 2020 to 21, but I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it's somewhere in the middle of the player that he was last year. He suffered a few injuries, rib, and also some hand, wrist injury too as well. And I think, that kind of also hindered his play. Not that I'm making any excuses, but, it is what it is. But, when you get older, you're going to have injuries. That's basically what it is. Like, you're going to be more susceptible to them. So I think you're going to see a version of Aaron Rodgers sometime in the middle. But that's all the Jets really need. I mean, if they had Aaron Rodgers from last year, they would have made the playoffs. They would have been a wild card team, I believe. So, but to have a guy that I think, that's going to be possibly in the MVP discussions, that's really, transformed their whole entire organization within the last 4 or 5 months. I mean, they like I say, it's big. Like, I think for him, it's just about staying healthy, and like I said, the offensive line protected him. But I definitely think you will start to see a little bit, some form of the old Aaron Rodgers, but not necessarily that 2021 Aaron Rodgers.
Offensively, what do you feel like past Garrett Wilson? We all know what he brings to the offense. Like, there's a bunch of Aaron's buddies that he brought along with him, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb. Who are the guys that you think really have a chance to elevate this offense in the passing game outside of Garrett Wilson? Because, in Buffalo, Bills fans are used to it every single season. Stephon Diggs, what you're going to get out of him, all pro caliber player. It's always the question of who else is going to, step up. Right now, it's about Gabe Davis, Dalton Kincaid, maybe even a Deontay Hardy and Dawson Knox. Who are those players in New York that need to step up alongside Garrett Wilson?
And let me, before I give you my answer, like, the Corey Davis retirement really hurt them in a way, because, I think it was a veteran that's would provide some stability there. And now, although you do have Alan Lazard and, Randall Cobb and McCole Hartman, that's probably my answer, McCole Hartman. Like, I believe that he's going to be the guy that's going to be asked to really step up. We kind of saw him, in Kansas City be like a gadget guy type of deal, like when end arounds and just do these trick plays. But they're going to rely really, especially with Corey Davis retired, rely on him to be an X factor in the passing game, and they're going to need him to because I think, like I say, everybody's going to be keyed on Garrett. Alan Lazar, I think, is a good, 2 or 3 receiver, but they definitely need somebody else that can stretch the field, and I think that's what they expect McCole Hartman to do.
Jessica Tennis, one of our regulars in the chat, says, Antwan, throwing a question down for you. Isn't it great journalists like Mike Greenberg, and Rich Eisen can be diehard fans, not think they are better and above that? So refreshing. I will push back on this a little bit, Jessica, in the sense that I don't really feel like people like Rich, this is completely off topic, but it's a super chat, and we always talk about the super chats. Rich Eisen and Mike Greenberg, they've kind of graduated from journalism in a way. Like they're more in that realm of, talk show host, like
Yes.
national figurehead. It's a little bit different. And I do respect the fact that they are, out there and open with it, but I don't think you'll see too many traditional, like especially beat reporters, being outwardly fans of the team they cover.
Nah, not at all. I mean, everybody grew up fans of the game and all that. I'm not a Jets fan per se, but everybody grew up fans of the game with certain teams or whatever. But I'm not just you just don't see that out there, especially with the people that have boots on the ground every single day, in the facility or whatever, whether you did grow up a Jets fan or not.
But I do respect, like I said, Eisen is very entertaining. He does a great job. He is a sensational interviewer. I mean, there was an interview that he did with Robert Griffin III on a multitude of topics, but they got into the Stephon Diggs stuff a couple months ago. And to be honest with you, like Robert Griffin III takes a lot of heat sometimes. Like I thought he had some of the most nuanced, informative viewpoints on the Diggs situation that almost anybody has had. And I think a lot of that came from the way that Eisen directed the ship in that interview. And I enjoy those shows.
Yeah, I like RG3. Like I don't understand the pushback. I watch a lot of college football too, and he does games like every single Saturday. So, and along with the NFL stuff. But yeah, I think he's tremendous. But yeah, Rich and Greenberg, I think, are two different type of fans too. Like I think Greenberg is more like the super type fan, just out there, outlandish opinions and stuff like that. I think Rich is more or less like, he is a fan, but he kind of understands, like he has a better understanding, and then he's not coming out with these hot takes like some Jet fans are out there.
Hot takes like Jason Whitlock and Stephen A. Smith. I don't know, man. Some of that stuff is just like horrible.
That's what I'm saying. I just need the season start. I just need the season start. Like at this point, like it's crazy. Like all these crazy hot takes. Like once the games get started, then we'll find out about a lot of these teams.
For sure. Let's steer it back to the Jets here because I have a couple more really important questions that I feel like are going to help us set the table for this matchup as Bills fans try to get an understanding of this Jets team. And before we get too far, though, I want to let everybody know we have over 300 people subscribed to the Shout Insider text line. And now we have an official sponsor for that text line. If you text 716-528-6727, you become a Shout Insider right now. And the Shout text line is now brought to you by Carrie C. Bayer, attorney with the law offices of Francis M. Latro, located at 237 Main Street in Buffalo, New York. If you or someone you know is seriously injured, give him a call at 716-852-1234 or check out latrolaw.com. That's LETROLAW.com. Shout out to Carrie and Letro Law for coming aboard on Shout. Let's get into this running back situation because last year, man, was Breece Hall special, dude. Like, I didn't know. Like, I remember, like, around the draft time, a lot of Bills fans were hoping the Bills would pull the trigger, even in the first round, on Breece Hall, coming out as maybe the top running back in that class. And he looked better than anything else. Anything else out there that I saw on him, he exceeded that. So what are the expectations for Breece Hall? Let's start with him.
Well, he's coming off an ACL injury, and he's less than a year removed from that. I think that's why you go out and get a guy like Dalvin Cook, so you're not relying so much heavily on him. If you look at the history of running backs coming off ACL injuries, especially recently, is not really good. The body of work there. Look at Saquon Barkley. I think that's probably the most recent example I can point to. He came back in 2021 off the ACL injury. I think he had over a little bit 500 yards rushing. Just didn't look like himself. And then the Giants relied so much heavily on him. Come back to 2022, he starts looking like the old Saquon Barkley that we remember, and one of the best players in the league. I think for the Jets, they want to, I think they expect Breece Hall to, be a significant contributor. However, I just don't think they're going to put so much on him. That's why you go up and sign Dalvin Cook, and he can take pressure off of him. And then later on in the season, when you start to get a little bit, Breece Hall starts to get a little bit stronger in the knee and get some wind under him and everything like that, I think he'll be, more of your ball carrier there for the Jets later on.
I thought it was interesting, like the situation that Cook enters, because you're right. There's this huge opportunity for him early in the season. How do you feel like that will progress him interpersonally with the rest of, his teammates once they get to potentially a place where Breece Hall ends up taking that featured back role or, starts games? Like, how do you feel like Dalvin Cook will approach that?
Well, I think, he understands the situation. He's getting paid, quite a bit of money for it as well. And I think, they're gonna play the hot hand too at times. I mean, the Jets use a variety of different running backs. We saw it last year, even in the game against Buffalo. I mean, they had James Robinson. That was really the only significant, game James Robinson had for the Jets was against Buffalo. They had James Robinson, Michael Carter. They're going to use like a variety of different running backs. So, they'll have Michael Carter. He'll be in the midst too as well. But, yeah, I definitely think for him, he understands that it's going to be a shared role too. And also Breece is the future. But for Dalvin, it's going to be a year for him to, one, show he can stay healthy and bounce back too. I think a lot of people think, at 28, he might be starting to show a little bit of decline there. His yards per carry was the lowest of his career. But, yeah, having him maybe on limited carries can still show that he is still one of the better running backs in football. And I definitely think, even in a limited role, which, may or may not happen depending on what happens with how good Breece is, I definitely think, he'll still be a significant contributor. And I think he understands the situation too.
What do you think the workload will look like on Monday night between the three backs? Obviously, Michael Carter in the mix there as well. If you had to predict, just a best guess, how they kind of divvy things up for those guys?
Probably 50% Dalvin, like 25% Breece, and then probably some 25% Michael. I think That's probably the way you'll have it, sliced up as well. Again, I don't think they want to give Breece, a whole lot early. He actually had a practice off on Monday, for the Jets as well. That I think that's gonna be a thing throughout the season. Giving him some days, kind of like a vet day, although he's not technically a vet. He's a second-year player, but they understand like he is the future of the team, and they don't want to push him, further. It's like so far where something else happens, to him. He re-injures he has a re-injury or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm. Defensively, let's shift gears over there, because I think that to me is going to be the matchup that decides this game on Monday night. The Jets' elite defense against the Bills' elite offense. And obviously the Bills are hoping the addition of Dalton Kincaid, some other offensive weapons that they've kind of sprinkled in around Diggs and Davis, Deontay Hardy, Trent Sherfield. They're hoping with, the addition of some physical runners and Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, that they, Ken Dorsey has more options at his disposal when going week to week against some different kind of stylistic matchups. The Jets were, if you want to talk about a defense that coordinated and executed the best against the Bills offense last year, was the Jets, without a doubt. Is there anybody that they lost off of that defense that has you concerned? Where is your level of expectation on this defense? Do you think they're as good, better? Like, where do you kind of fall on the Jets defense from a general sense?
I'll provide context on it before I answer my question. Like, they returned 8 of their 11 starters on defense too. You can count, if you want to count Michael Carter as a starter as well, like the nickelback, like Michael Carter the second, like he is, technically a starter. Like you could say 9, but I think Quan Alexander, I think that's, at the linebacker position, Jamie Sherwood is taking over for him. He has very limited experience. I mean, he played some last year, especially the season finale against Miami. Somebody they do like, somebody they converted safety, from safety to linebacker coming out of college at Auburn. They like him. They like his versatility. They think he can fly all over the field. But it's different when you're playing in the preseason or also these joint practices. Now you're taking these live bullets against a team that's won the division 3 years in a row. And I wonder. I still think their defense is going to be good, but you're looking at a weak spot for the Jets defense. I wonder if that might be a weakness that, especially when you talk about tight ends like Dawson Knox and Kincaid, who I really like coming out of Utah. I wonder if the Bills are looking at a way to try to expose him, especially with the little bit of experience that he has.
What makes Sauce Gardner so special for people that maybe just casually have watched him at times? Like, I know some of the critics would say that he's ultra handsy in his approach, but like, you cover him on a daily basis. There's no denying the level at which he plays at. And I think when he lines up against Stephon Diggs, it is going to be must-see TV on Monday night. What makes Sauce so special? And do you feel like we've just seen him kind of tipping the surface? Do you expect more from him in year two?
Yeah, I mean, his critics, especially Dolphin fans, I tend to find like they're the ones that criticize him probably the most. But yeah, I think just his humility, and then he's a football savant too. He's even said, a lot of people say that he's the best quarterback in football, but he pushes back on that, saying like, I've only played 1 year. Like, it takes time for somebody to be at that level. But I think just his length, that's the first thing for me. Like, this man is like stretched out there on the field with his long arms and reach there. You can, like I say, you talk about him being handsy, but I think some of the best quarterbacks get away with whatever refs allowed him to get away with, and I think he kind of walks that line, and he understands what the line is, and he's able to use his lip to kind of bother wide receivers there. I think you kind of saw that in both Buffalo games last year too as well. And he, like I say, he also has very his speed is very deceptive too. You wouldn't think of a guy that kind of looks like him as really fast, but he is a very fast guy. So when you have the combination of elite corner skills, his length, and the speed to go along with it, you get at least one of the best cornerbacks in football. Whether you want to talk about Patrick Surtain, the second for Denver, I think those two are really in that conversation to be the best in the league.
Mm-hmm. I'm so excited to have Antwan on here. I mean, he's helping us set up this matchup, get us a little bit more learned up on this New York Jets team. And if you want to gear up and get ready for game day and win, head over to Topps Friendly Markets right now. You can elevate your food game and automatically receive a chance to win hot prizes every time you purchase a product from fan favorite brands like Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Powerade, Body Armor, Lay's, Cheez-It, Frito-Lay, Kraft, Heinz, and so much more now until October 28th. From September 3rd through September 16th, every time you buy brands like that, you score points and you're entered for a chance to win a smoker. They'll have prizes, a smokeless fire pit, a flat top grill, and then even a pizza oven later in October. Head over to Topps Friendly Markets, your local store, or the website to learn more. All right, I'm going to close things out here with you, Antwan, and I want to ask about some players that maybe aren't on the divisional or national radar that you think are poised for maybe not a breakout season, but somebody that people aren't talking enough about going into this season on both sides of the ball for the Jets.
Well, I think DJ Reed is a guy, I think he gets overshadowed by Sauce Gardner, but I really thought DJ Reed had a really, really good year last year. And I think he deserved, at least last year, to be among the conversation as one of the best cornerbacks, especially if you talk about the top 10 list. I think he was a top 10 corner last year. I'm not going to say he was number 5 or stay on the same level as Sauce, but yeah, he was really good last year. And I expect him, especially with, teams probably not targeting Sauce, they'll probably go with him. And so I definitely think DJ Reed is a guy definitely to watch out for. Offensively, I definitely think Tyler Conklin and I think CJ Uzomah. I think both of those guys could be, big factors in the Jets passing game too, especially because they run a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets. And I definitely think, Aaron Rodgers likes the tight end too as well. So especially with the loss of Corey Davis, I think those guys could be big factors in the passing game.
Uzama is really interesting because I thought he was kind of finding something in Cincinnati a couple years ago. I think the year they went to the Super Bowl, he had that really nice run in the playoffs. And I feel like getting to New York at the perfect time, or did he play with them last year? I can't remember.
Yes, he did.
He
He
did
was
play with
there.
them last year. And I felt like it wasn't the perfect time when he got there because obviously Zach Wilson and the uncertainty at quarterback, the level of play, getting Aaron Rodgers now in the mix. And you mentioned the fact that historically has elevated tight ends a lot. Like he's somebody I'm really intrigued about. I mean, maybe even like a fantasy sleeper if you're looking for a late round tight end.
Yeah, for sure. Like I think they're both of those guys. I think are going to get the ball a lot, especially in this offense there. And again, it's going to be so much attention to Garrett and the running game, obviously with Dalvin and Brees. But yeah, I think those guys are going to get a lot of opportunities offensively for balls. I think both of them have an opportunity to get over 50 catches this year. That's how much I think Aaron Rodgers will rely on the tight ends. And I think even last year when the quarterback circus, with the Jets too, I think, Tyler and CJ were definitely big fit factors in the passing game.
All right, before I get you out of here, just you don't have to give a prediction necessarily. If you have one and you want to throw it out, feel free to. But just like, how do you see this game going? Because like, there's going to be such a scene in New Jersey on Monday. 9/11, the backdrop of the history there. Monday Night Football, two of the most the biggest Super Bowl contenders in the league. They play in the same division. Aaron Rodgers and Josh Allen, two of the top quarterbacks in the league, elite defenses. It's eliteness everywhere you look. Like, what do you think are the keys to this game and how do you see it kind of playing out?
I think it's gonna be a heavyweight fight, kind of like what you saw last year when the Jets played the Bills. I think both games really, they both were pretty tight there. Came down really to the end, especially the one in Jersey where it seemed like that was the Jets' biggest win of the year. Like nobody thought they were going to upset the Bills that particular day. The Bills were such on a high. I guess you talked about it earlier. They were past the Super Bowl, contenders and possibly winning the AFC. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to come down to who can run the ball the best. Obviously, turnovers there. And I definitely think, the two quarterbacks there, obviously Josh Allen, he's, fantastic talent, especially with his legs and the way he throws the football there. And, obviously Aaron Rodgers and what he does too, just being pinpoint accurate, and his position. So I definitely think it's just going to come down to, running the football there late and also can you take care of the football. I definitely think we kind of saw that in the games last year in both matchups, especially the second one where, it seemed like the Jets were driving there at the end and then Michael Carter fumbled and that really was all she wrote there for the Jets and the Bills ended up pulling that one out at Orchard Park.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, man, for joining me today. Can you let everybody know where they can find your stuff this week and beyond? Because I feel like Bills fans, even though they probably won't like it as the Jets maybe compete for the division, they'll probably want to stay attuned with what's going on there in New York.
It's crazy enough. I got a lot of Bills fans follow me. So, yeah, it's a lot of Bills fans, obviously, especially me covering the Dolphins in the past. So, a lot of Bills, obviously, Dolphins and Jets. But, yeah, you follow me at Antwan Staley on all social media platforms. Also, follow my work at New York Daily News as well.
Awesome stuff. He's Antwan. I'm Matt. Ryan will be back in the saddle tomorrow night. The Staples Show, Wednesday night, getting you ready for Bills versus Jets. And actually, the Bills, no media availability today. They will start their week tomorrow on Media Day. We will start it off at noon with Sean McDermott. We will get Josh Allen after practice and then open locker room. And then we get off, giddy up and go. It's going to be a fun week. Thanks, Antwan.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care, everybody.